We here at Ideal are always about saving as much money as possible, and buying a used car instead of a new one is almost always going to end up costing you less. But if you are thinking about buying a used car right now, or even in the next several months, I hate to break it to you, but you're better off waiting. I know. It's not the fun, and I'm essentially the fun police in this video. Because I know you've been saving your pennies for years and you finally have enough to buy that used Porsche or whatever that ideal car is. And all you want to do is hop behind the wheel and hit the highway. Unfortunately, with the state of the used car market right now, you're going to end up paying way more than you would in any other year. So, what's going on? And why have used car prices shot to the moon? And when can we expect them to come back to normal? Well, in this video, I'm gonna break it all down for you. And if you're new here, my name's Brad Danger, and this is Ideal Money. Please subscribe and turn on that notification bell because we have a whole lot more content coming your way. Let's go. If this is your first time hearing about this, you might think to yourself, used cars are so cheap anyway. How bad could it really be? Psych! Well, let me just show you the damage real quick. All right, so in any given year, you're always gonna see fluctuations in the prices of used cars, and that's totally normal. But what's not totally normal was the fact that at the end of 2020, the average price on a used car on CarGurus went all the way up to $22,470. And that's an increase of $1,800 from the beginning of the year. And it's a record high. According to Cox Automotive, the parent company of Kelley Blue Book, Auto Trader, and Xtime, the average used car price shot up 15%. Let me see. Considering that inflation was less than 1% in 2020, I'd say that 15% is a pretty big increase and completely out of the ordinary. Although nothing about 2020 was ordinary. So can we really even be that surprised? Nope. And as far as 2021, have the prices stayed as high or have they come back down? Well, no, they haven't come back down. In fact, the average price on CarGurus has shot up another $500 since the beginning of the year. And maybe by the time this video is out, it's gonna be up even more. So I'll link to it down in the description. Because buying a used car this year is gonna cost you a whole lot more than it would in other years. Of course, there are still some good deals out there, and you can definitely use the Ideal Car strategies to find those. But if you're dead set on a specific make, model, and color, you're probably gonna pay more than you should. So what's the deal? Why have used car prices skyrocketed in the last year? Well, as with most of the unfortunate events of 2020, the pandemic is to blame. Yes, the pandemic has had a widespread effect across the entire economy, and the used car market certainly hasn't made it out unscathed. And it essentially created this situation where there's a lack of supply of used cars, as well as a large demand among consumers for used cars. So what happens is that you have low supply and high demand. Simple economics. And what that yields is super high prices. So what caused this lack of supply? Well, the first problem has been factory shutdowns. Less new cars are being produced because of these shutdowns, which is driving up the price of new cars. One of the big three, Ford, temporarily closed the doors to 2 of its factories May of last year. One of them in Michigan and the other one in Chicago. And the Michigan facility had to close because an employee tested positive, and the Chicago facility had to close down because it had a shortage of parts. And why did they have a shortage of parts? Because the supplier of those parts had to close because of an outbreak as well. So these shutdowns have effects that trickle through the entire supply chain. And ultimately, that just means that less new cars are being made and sold. So with a smaller supply of new cars, new car prices go up. And since new car prices are going up, well, fewer people are trading in their old ones to buy new ones. And people who do want to change out their set of wheels and are looking at the used market as an affordable option, well, there's more of those people and less cars. So people are choosing to stay with their old beaters right now instead of trading them in for new cars. And that's partly because new car prices are up and partly because, well, the pandemic has made everybody's financial situation a whole lot more dicey. And if you're enjoying this video so far, hit that like button because the supply of used cars is drying up. And so used car dealers have no choice but to cover their losses by jacking up those prices. And another factor worth mentioning is a large part of the total used car supply comes from rental services like Avis or Enterprise. And these kinds of companies typically have to replace those cars in their fleets with new ones ever so often. And then their old cars get sold and put on the used market. However, with the travel business in the deplorable state that it's in, less and less people are driving rental cars, which means that the rental companies aren't having to replace their inventory as often, which means less of those cars are going to the used market. And a lot of those rental companies are also having some financial struggles themselves and are trying to cut costs by getting the most that they can out of each of the cars that they currently own. Basically, all those old rental cars that are typically supply for the used car market aren't anymore. And yet the supply shortage isn't the only reason the price of used cars is going up. Believe it or not, the demand is going way up too. And that's got a lot to do with a little piece of paper that you probably got in the mail. Despite the fact that a lot of people are struggling financially right now, there seems to be an increase in demand for used cars despite it all. It seems like those people who got a stimulus check and didn't need it to pay bills or buy food or just live were all rushing to buy used cars as soon as they could. Yeah, that's right. Apparently that extra money gave people the idea that they could go buy a used set of wheels, which again has helped drive the price up of these used cars to historic proportions. I mean, just think about it. Maybe you've needed a new car for years but could never afford it. And then 3 stimulus checks later, Uncle Sam stuffed over $4,000 into your pocket. And suddenly, that secondhand sedan is within arm's reach. And I can't lie, when I got my stimulus check, the first thing I did was surf the used car sites. Now, I'm the first person to say that it is probably better that you put that stimulus money into like a Roth IRA or something and let it set you up for retirement than it is to pay for an overpriced used car. Yeah, definitely. But you can't drive your Roth IRA 100 miles per hour down the freeway. Plus, the government wants you to spend that money anyway. But the government encouraged spending isn't the only reason demand has gone up. Actually, a lot of people have found themselves in a financial squeeze during the pandemic. So, while they may have wanted to get a new car before the pandemic hit, it seems like a lot of people are now looking to the used market for a cheaper option. And both of these factors have also driven up the demand for used cars. And with the dwindling supply coming into the used car market, the prices are going beyond the moon. It seems like we're just gonna have to wait until the pandemic is behind us for used car prices to come back to the previous levels. And so, depending on how long it takes for us to get the pandemic behind us, well, that's gonna be our first kind of look into what our new normal is going to be with the car market in general. So after watching this video, what do you think? Are you gonna go buy an overpriced used car that you've been waiting months for? Or are you gonna stick it out in the old rust bucket and wait until prices go back down? Drop us a comment and let us know. Also, don't forget to subscribe for all our new Ideal content and hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. I'm Brad Danger, this is Ideal Money, and keep living the ideal lifestyle.